Yeah, I have made my pick. I am listening to the advice of the Canadian Prince of Poutine today. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lancia. What do we have coming up? Yeah, I see you over there, lovable loser. We're dishing out NBA, NHL, EPL picks. We're going to give you some price check for the main Sunday slate around the NFL, already week 8. But we're going to go ahead and start on Thursday Night Football because we've got the Ravens, we got the Bucks. Is this going to be an actual good football game on Thursday night? Jesse Cofield standing by with the lovable loser and my guy, Jeff Ulrich, virtually. Let's go, baby.
Okay, thank you, Emerson. Yes, I am diving into this Thursday night game with Steve. He goes by Steve Buchanan.
Thank you.
He is here. So, Steve, let's talk about your captain pick in this one. Lamar Jackson, by far the most expensive guy in the captain spot here. Do you feel like you kind of need to roster him?
I mean, he obviously should be in your roster. I don't necessarily think you have to use him as your captain because you're paying $17,700 if you're going to use him in the captain spot here. I'm going to go with one of the Bucs receivers. I think Chris Godwin, this is a great spot for him. A lot of injuries in that Ravens secondary. Marlon Humphrey's dealing with a hamstring injury, is expected to play, but how effective is he going to be? And then we have a number of injuries on the Bucs overall. Julio Jones, Russell Gage, Cameron Brate. They're down a number of receivers here. With that said, Godwin has been a target monster, even over the past 4 games that he's been active. 10 targets or more in 3 of the last 4 games that he's played. He's been Tom Brady's go-to guy in these type of scenarios. So I think this is a spot where you got to go with Chris Godwin.
All right, Jeff, what do you think you're going to go with in your captain spot?
I'm going to stick with the Bucs. I'm going to go with another player who's just going to be slated for high volume in a spot where, I think that the Bucs have a chance to get out in front against a Baltimore Ravens team that's banged up, and it's Leonard Fournette at 13,200. There's a lot of options, for captains tonight. I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson is the most obvious just because of what he can do with his legs. But once you're going down behind him and you're starting to look for value, I think Fournette makes the most sense. The Bucs O-line it's beat up. It's not very good this year. And one way you counteract that, you get Fournette going, you get him going in the pass game, short passes as well. I just think that he's going to be slated here for a pretty big workload. You look at the Ravens' rush defense, too, the last few weeks, it's regressed. I think that the Ravens are gettable here, but just for injuries for a lot of different areas. But just where the Bucs O-line is at, I think Fournette makes the most sense as a captain.
All right, Jeff, what about value when you're looking at this? Who do you think is going to give that to you?
There's a lot. Again, this game is interesting for show. I don't know if it's going to be good, but for showdown and DFS, it's very interesting. There's a lot of players, sub 3K here we can take a look at. Mark Andrews has not practiced this week. If he does play, he's got a knee injury, and you really question whether he can what he's going to be able to do this week. I know he did it on no practice last week, but he also caught 0 passes. Isaiah Likely at 1,600 seems like he just has to get involved. Josh Oliver's out there as well at 200. He's playing more snaps, but I think it's more likely, Jesse, to see a few more targets in this spot if Mark Andrews isn't going to play or if he's just limited. So 1,600, Baltimore on the road in a spot, against a Bucs team probably doesn't cover the middle of the field as well as they should. I like that as well. I think Oliver's probably playable too, especially if Andrews sits. These guys are going to be highly owned, but give me Isaiah Likely at 1,600. I think is the most, just kind of value-oriented, ceiling play for GPPs.
All right, Jeff, going with a rookie tight end. Where are you going for your value, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to go the same way here on the Bucs side. Cade Otton's 5K in this one. While that doesn't sound like much of a value overall, he's going to be the top tight end in this offense here. If you look at what he's done in the 2 weeks that he has been the starter when Cam Brate has been out, he's been targeted 12 times, has made 10 catches for over 100 yards. He's getting some targets in the red zone too as well, 3 red zone targets. Baltimore's already allowed 4 touchdowns to opposing tight ends, so it's not like it's a squad where they've particularly done well against either. But Otton's been somebody that Brady has been looking at when Cam Brate has been out. So 5K, a little bit more pricey than maybe your normal traditional value play, but for somebody who's going to be starting and running routes here at 5K, that could pay off easily if he continues to get looks from Brady.
Yeah, I mean, the sheer volume of Tampa Bay's passing game,
right?
Like, he doesn't have to be the number 1 option, right? I mean, since week 3, no quarterback has attempted as many passes as Brady, 235. Right. Woo! All right, let's head over on the DK Sportsbook. Bucs offense has struggled. Mike Evans may have some friendly referees on his side. Oh, you see what I did there? But, like, Are you looking at any Bucks player props, Steve?
Yeah, I like Mike Evans anytime touchdown. You're getting that at plus 125. Like I mentioned, this Ravens secondary coming into this game extremely banged up. Even if those guys do play, you can't imagine that they're going to be at 100% here. So Evans has been the guy in the red zone for Brady, as we've seen here. Interesting stats. Since Brady has taken over for the Bucks, Evans has not gone more than 2 games without a touchdown. That streak is alive right now. This would be game 3 if he doesn't get the touchdown there. But just a little interesting nugget there from Mike Evans, how much he's involved in the red zone. Brady has 8 touchdown passes on the season. 7 of those has come in the red zone. If he needs that big body in the red zone, of course, it's Mike Evans at 6'5". So I think he's a great bet to score, the anytime touchdown, plus 125.
Yeah, Jeff, you enticed by any of those Bucks player props?
Yeah, no, I mean, a little bit too much, it feels like. I mean, I'll take it a step further with K-Dot, and I think plus 285 is pretty fair for an anytime touchdown. But I think that the one, like the more conservative one that I'd be, again, bullish on, is I already mentioned him, is Leonard Fournette, over 51.5 rushing yards. I mean, this is a player we don't need to guess with Fournette. I mean, if the Bucks are ahead in this game, where is the ball going? Like, there's no other early down rusher to contend with. I just think that that's super valuable in the spot. I'm actually surprised to see that his prop is this low. Again, we don't have to go back far to see what the Bucks have done against opposing running backs lately. I mean, it's really not been that good. I mean, obviously Saquon Barkley having a good game, but Nick Chubb, 91 yards. Barkley got there, 83 yards on 22 carries. Mixon the week before, 78 yards. So this team's been giving up yards. They're a little bit banged up kind of everywhere. And now you've got the Bucks coming off an angry game where, like the passing game wasn't working. I mean, I just really feel like Fournette is in a spot here to get 15-plus carries, unless Baltimore comes out and just starts walloping them right off the bat, which with Andrews banged up seems a little far-fetched. So I think Fournette at over 51.5, probably my favorite just single prop player of the week.
Jeff, the game total is sitting here at 46. We got your thoughts on the Bucks here. Is Lamar Jackson going to help this go over the total points line? You got to keep in mind when you're looking at this, each of the Ravens' last 4 games have gone under the total points line.
Yeah, just to take that a step further, these teams are 3-10 to the over. So 3 out of 13 games between these two teams have been involved in have gone under this year, or gone over. Only 3 out of 13. I'll get this right at some point. These teams are trending as unders. Inflated totals really for the Bucks is what's doing this. Obviously coming off a season where they were one of the highest scoring teams, they play at a fast pace. Some of that is still true. There's still a very high pace of play team, but just with where their offense has gone, and with Mark Andrews banged up on the other side, I gotta lean under here. I still think 46 points is a little bit too much. I think again, we're really relying on 2 offenses to get it together on a short week who haven't looked that good lately. Again, like Mark Andrews coming off a week where he didn't catch a pass, he hasn't practiced. I think you're going to see the Ravens have to rely on Lamar Jackson, but with the Tampa Bay Bucks defense ready for him and just having a good D-line, I think they're going to have trouble moving the ball. And then on the other side, how can we rely on the Bucks to do anything? I know I just talked up Leonard Fournette, but if they're running the ball, they're just killing the clock as well. So give me the under here at 46.
So, Steve, these games at Raymond James Stadium are averaging 44.7 per game. So do you want to take the under too?
Yeah, I would have to be going with the under here too as well. I mean, a lot of the points that Jeff just made is really how I would have said it too as well. I mean, you just can't rely on these 2 offenses that are struggling, especially with the amount of injuries that they're dealing with now, that you can feel good about going over. And these Thursday night games have been crushing it on the under all season long too as well. So obviously I know different type of scenario, different teams here, but I just think this is a game that you can classically go under on here with the amount of injuries that they're dealing with right now.
All right, Steve, despite the struggles from the Bucks, they're actually now 2-point favorites as the line has moved over here 3 points since yesterday. What's the deal here? Like, what's the game bet tonight? Brady 6-2 straight up as a primetime underdog since 2010. Are bettors putting faith in him to bounce back here? Like, what's going on with this line?
I think actually the bet here to make is the Ravens spread at +1 through the first half. You're getting that at -125. These are 2 teams that are getting off to drastically different starts in the first half. The Baltimore Ravens are averaging 15 points per game in the first half. The Bucks are at 7.7. Those points are only higher than 3 other teams in the league right now. This is the Giants, the Commanders, and the Colts. Like 2 really, some offenses that have gotten off to really slow starts here. And then you look at the record for the Bucks against the spread in the first half. Bucks are only 2-6 against the spread in the first half. This has not been a strong point for them at all. Ravens sit at 3-3-1, obviously not crushing it in that realm, but certainly been doing better than the Bucks are. Again, with the amount of injuries that the Bucks are dealing with on offense, I like the Ravens to cover the spread here in the first half.
All right, Jeff, what's the game bet tonight? What do we think?
I'm just gonna look. I mean, this game line has been all over the place over the last 24 hours. It was down to like Bucks plus 1.5. It's now up to Bucks -2. And I think a lot of that is built on the Mark Andrews news, not practicing at all this week. I think that's got something to do with it. I'm gonna go with the Bucks here. I think this is a very obvious bounce back spot. You look at that game against Carolina last week. You can't stop thinking how different would that game have gone if Mike Evans had just caught that touchdown pass in the first quarter. I think that the Bucks very likely get it going against the Baltimore team that's just, the injuries are just starting to pile up. I just don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be able to do it on his own without Mark Andrews at 100%. The corners here are in a really tough spot against Evans, Godwin, and now Cade Otton, and receiving running backs. I'm just going to take the Bucks to cover. I know it's now -2. I mean, you can take the money line, whatever, but I'm going to take the Bucks to cover here at -2.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Steve, before we let you go, I know it's not football. We just got to ask, who's your pick to win the World Series?
Yeah.
Well, this might be good news for Phillies fans because I have picked against them every playoff series, and they've won every playoff series. But I'm going with the Astros. So you try to figure out who you think this is going to benefit in the long run. Look, at the end of the day, the Astros are likely the better team when all is said and done. But the Phillies are coming in here with all the momentum at this point. The rotation's been phenomenal. The offense has been phenomenal. But that being said, I think Houston's rotation as a whole a little bit better than the Phillies. So I think Astros have the slight advantage, but it's going to go 7.
All right, it's going to go 7. Mark it. Mark the tape. All right, thank you, Steve. That's going to do it for us. This Sunday, though, we got a Millie Maker contest. NFL 3.75 million fantasy football millionaire. $20 entry, $1 million to first. But let's bring it up. The man. Oh, he's here. You hear him?
Hey,
Can you hear him? All right, Emerson Latzia is here. He's going to help you build those lineups.
That's right. Anyone who wants to get in the Millie Maker, do not worry. We have a segment to help you build a money-making lineup, potentially $1 million. Let's go. Pierce Dietrich. Let's do some price check. Let's see which players you like at the following positions. It's the third week of the season, third bye week of the season here. We got some big-time players who are unavailable, so the guys like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, a lot of injury news as well to follow leading up to Sunday's kickoff. Pierce, quarterback, who is your guy? Whose price do you really love at this point?
Start scrolling now. We're going all the way down to Sam Ellinger at $4,000. Might sound crazy to some people, but we got some maximum roster flexibility here. I know usually when you roster one of these cheap quarterbacks, it's a bad situation, but this really isn't a bad situation. The Colts offense looks good. Aside from Matt Ryan, he threw for 2,000 yards, 9 touchdowns this season. So typically we get these cheap quarterbacks in bad spots, but this is a really good offense. 3 really good receivers to pass to, a good running back, decent line. He's also facing a Washington defense that's last in pass or near the bottom in pass DVOA, bottom third in allowing points to quarterbacks, receiving running backs, and wide receivers. Take the savings, basically like a poor man's Tim Tebow, but he can hit value pretty easily.
Yeah, we'll see if the gamble pays off for Frank Company. So $4,000 here, $4,000. I guess they're the one and done quarterback carousel. They're kind of over it there in Indianapolis. Running back. Who stands out to you? Who is your must roster?
Yeah, so going cheap at quarterback, and we can also take some cheap players at wide receiver, allow us to spend up on these awesome running backs that cost a lot this week. There's several. I'm probably going to be able to afford both. I will be able to afford both of them, putting Ellinger in my line. Give me Derrick Henry. We're going to spend up for the big dog. 30 carries last week. I don't even need to tell you how many yards. If you're going to get 30 carries out of your running back, jam him into your lineup. Oh, by the way, we went for 128 yards. He's facing the Houston Texans, who he owned over his career. They have the worst rush DVOA this year and every year and for annual. So you take Derrick Henry in this spot. You also, if you just take out his bad game against Buffalo, which was a blowout, he's averaging 24 carries per game for 4 yards per carry. You do the math. He's a pretty good pick.
All right, take me to wide receiver. Is this a spend-up spot this week?
Well, yeah, you got 3 spots you can spend up. I'm going to give you the cheap guy to pair with Ellinger. You can get Paris Campbell at $4,500. former second-round pick out of Ohio State. He's dealt with injuries throughout his career. He's finally healthy. He is looking good. 7 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown 2 weeks ago. Last week, 10 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. He's also, as I mentioned, facing that Washington defense that's near the bottom of the league in pass DVOA, giving up a ton of points to wide receivers. I mean, you can take any Colts receiver. They're all pretty affordable, but this cheap pairing really opens up tons of flexibility in your lineup.
Okay, tight end, always a tricky spot when it comes to DFS every week because it's such a top-heavy position, but you're also a guy who loves to spend like $100 on a tight end. How much are you spending at this position?
We'll split the difference here. We'll take Mike Gesicki, who is a little bit underpriced. We're expecting big things from him early in the season. It hasn't really happened, but recently he has come alive with 7 targets in each of his last 2 games. Tua and this Mike McDaniel offense love to go over the middle. The Mike McDaniel Miami offense looks a lot like the San Francisco offense under Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, by the way, George Kittle had some monster games for that San Francisco offense. I expect Gesicki to start breaking out. He's facing the Detroit pass defense, one of the worst in the league, 31st when it comes to allowing points to tight ends. Give me Gesicki for Miami.
All right, averaging 8 fantasy points per game. Been kind of ignored on that offense all season. DST, is there a group that you absolutely feel like you need to roster right now?
Yeah, I'm spinning up. I know a lot of people like to go down at DST, but I'm going to take Dallas Cowboys. Justin Fields, yeah, he looked good on Monday night. That was just one game. Typically, he does not look good, and this is a completely different monster. The Cowboys' pass rush is intense. Their secondary is intense. You put a lot of pressure on this poor Bears offensive line and a poor quarterback that holds onto the ball too much. You're going to get sacks. You're going to get he might scramble for 100 yards, but that's fine with me. If he's scrambling, that means he's also getting sacked. If he's scrambling, that also means he's throwing bad passes, of which he leads the league in. So bad passes, sacks, those lead to turnovers. Turnovers lead to defensive touchdowns, which we've seen the Cowboys do. I also like the return man, USFL superstar Kevontae Turpin.
Love that, man. USFL. We got XFL quarterbacks shining now around the NFL. Pierce Dietrich, your job here is done. Thanks for helping us out with the main slate on Sunday. Again, everybody, $20 to get inside that Millie Maker on Sunday. We also heard from Jeff and Steve earlier on tonight's Thursday Night Football game between the Ravens and the Bucs. And by the way, Golick and Smitty, they'd like to share a word with you about the NFC South leaders right meow.
And oh, by the way, you know, Carolina is at 2-5, is 1 game out of first place. That division stinks. The NFC South stinks to high heaven. But even if they're out of it, players play hard because now they're playing for self-preservation. As I've talked about, they're playing for whoever the new coach is going to be, or maybe they're playing for another team out there that they're going to have to end up on. So you got to be careful of those teams. They will sneak up and bite you in the ass. But as far as Tampa Bay and Green Bay, I don't know where it's coming from. I mean, I don't know where it's going to get better. Green Bay had 4 drops Sunday, 10 drops in the last 2 weeks. Now, maybe that can get better. The guys quit dropping the damn ball. I've said when I cover them, they need to be more of a running team and then work the pass in. But it's hard to say that when you have Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to say that when you have Tom Brady, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. But that's what's going to help these guys. So we'll see if they do it. But as far as in it for what their goals are, when you're Brady and when you're Rodgers, the goal is the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay may win that division out of suck because that whole division stinks. Green Bay's going to have to be careful. They're already 3 behind Minnesota, but you're going to have to sit there and look at a wild card spot as they fall behind them. But I don't think either one of those teams is going to do anything. Green Bay may not even make the playoffs. The team, to me, Jess, that's been so surprising, and they just keep going, and he just keeps going, is Seattle and Geno Smith. I mean, they're sitting there and in the lead in the NFC West now. That blows my mind.
2 of the best players in the NBA are set to face off tonight. So we've got the Nets hosting the Mavericks. That means Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic will go head-to-head in a must-see matchup. By the way, I remember in the offseason, or maybe it was like back in May or June, Luka was like, my favorite player in the NBA, Kevin Durant.
Ooh.
I know. And they're both having like hella good seasons right now because Durant up to his usual antics. So he's averaging 32 points. He's shooting 56% from the field in Brooklyn's first 3 games. Doncic, unstoppable as well, averaging nearly 34 points, 8 apples, 8 rebounds per game. This is going to be must-see television tonight, Jesse.
Absolutely.
Cofield.
So let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Shall
Let's do
we?
it. Let's dive into it.
DraftKings contributors Nick Fryer, RotoWire's Nick Whalen. Fellas, here for some NBA zone coverage. Fryer is playing the DFS zone, okay?
Right.
With Waylon on the sportsbook zone for each game tonight. So that's how we're doing it, okay?
All right, love it. Love the big Nick energy here we have on this show this morning. Fryer, we'll start with you. So we got KD, Luka. Just mentioned it. They're averaging north of 30 points per game here. Those are real points in real life, not just DK points here. Which one of them is your best DFS play tonight, or would you prefer to go in another direction? Only a 4-game slate here, dude.
You've built up so much for me to talk about Luka Doncic
Hell
and Kevin
yeah.
Durant, only for me to not go with either one of them as my favorite play in this one. I wish I could say I'm sorry, but I'm really not. Look, I think Luka is worth every single penny. Of course, he's been producing big time to start the season off. Kevin Durant, not so much, but there is a guy who's right around Kevin Durant's price tag available on this slate that I want to go with, but that's in another game that we'll get to a little bit later on. Christian Wood is actually the guy that I want to roll with in this game. I know he disappointed us on Tuesday, came just shy of 5 times value against New Orleans, but he's going up against another team that has done very poorly against bigs this year. They've actually given up the most points, DK fantasy points, to opposing power forwards on the season. So he's one of the best players you're going to find in that 7K range, actually probably my favorite tonight in that range.
All right, Mr. Whalen, Luka has been the best player in the early going. Which one would you like?
No.
What?
We're talking sportsbook, baby.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Nick
right. I
does
totally forgot
sportsbook.
about the format of this.
It's
schedule.
okay.
I'm just in like this habit. You know, I
What
gotta
we-
break the
memo,
bad
Emerson.
habit,
What
bad
we
habit.
want to know, Nick, is what a bet is that you're looking at in this matchup.
And maybe you're looking at one of these guys.
a
Maybe
player
you're looking at one of these
prop,
guys
maybe,
for
we
in
don't
the
know.
prop department.
Yeah.
I think the big Nick energy is just overwhelming everybody right now. I understand that. It's funny. I have Christian Wood highlighted as well, and his player prop for points is sitting only at 18.5 tonight at the DK Sportsbook. And if you just do a simple look at his game log over at this little website rotowire.com, he scored 25, 23 points all off the bench so far. We kind of panicked going into the year, like, what does this mean? He didn't seem to know that was going to be his role. And it turns out they're starting JaVale McGee. They're playing him like 10 minutes a game. And it's really been Christian Wood who's playing 25 to 30 minutes most nights. And it looks like that's going to be the case going forward. So, like the supplementary numbers haven't really been there this year. It's basically just been points and rebounds. But I love his points prop tonight. And if I'm betting this game, I think I like the Mavs. They had a big letdown against the Pelicans team, missing 3 starters earlier this week. But Luka was banged up in that game. I think he'll be fine tonight. And Brooklyn comes in on the second night of a really, really tough back-to-back after a physical game in Milwaukee last night.
All right, Fryer, back to DFS. Clippers in Oklahoma City here, dude. Who's the best DFS play in this one?
Well, if you're looking at the high price guys, I think I'm inclined to go with SGA after what he did the other night. Of course, he's going up against his old team in revenge game types of situations. But I think you can actually get quite a bit of value in this game as well. Looking at Ivica Zubac at 6.5K, I think is a good play. But Trey Mann is actually the one I like the most at 5.6K tonight. Before they saw the Clippers last game, Trey Mann have been providing right around 5 times value for OKC over the previous, I believe it was 3 games. Then, of course, last game he goes off for 40 DK fantasy points. If we could get that again tonight, that would be great. But I think seeing what he's done throughout the course of the season, going up against a team that's given up a decent amount of points to his position from a fantasy standpoint, asking him to at least get 5 times value tonight is well within the realm of possibility.
All right, OKC won by 14 on Tuesday. Betting the Clippers to bounce back tonight, Waylon. Clips are 7-point favorites.
The number's a little high. I think the Clippers probably win the game, but if we're talking spread, I think I would take OKC here. One of the early themes this season has been a lot of these teams that we thought would just be going crazy, tanking for Victor Wembanyama. You think OKC, you think Utah. Those teams have come out swinging a little bit more than we expected. I think over the course of 82 games, everything's going to find its level, and OKC is going to make sure it's in that bottom 3. I can guarantee you that. But they've put together some impressive showings so far. They've hung in with some better opponents, and with no Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers, Paul George is questionable. We expect him to play, but who knows? They're missing another starter in Marcus Morris. I think OKC can hang around in this game again. I think you take Kawhi Leonard away from this Clippers team, it's a completely different animal. So I actually like OKC against the spread, and Nick mentioned Trey Mann. You could get his player prop over 2.5 3-pointers. Is that plus money tonight? He doesn't have more than 2 in any game so far, but he's launching a ton of attempts. With no Kawhi, I think he's going to play 30-plus minutes again tonight. He took 8 3-pointers against the Clippers the other night. I like his chances to get at least 3 of those.
Fryer, who stands out to you here on the DFS side with the Heat and the Warriors? We know teams have been able to score at will against Golden State. So does that mean you want to target somebody like on the Miami side, someone like a Tyler Hero, affordable, $7,200, 20 points in 4 of the 5 games he has scored at least that?
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Hero is one of the guys that's on my radar for tonight. Of course, Miami's on the second leg of a back-to-back too, so something you're going to have to monitor and make sure you're following DK live, both on the app and on Twitter, to make sure that you're up to date on all the Heat news, because Lord knows last year that they like to mess with us a little bit when it came to the injury report. But Hero's a guy I'm interested in, but Max Strus is actually the guy that I wanted to highlight because he's 5K right now. He's been providing good value. He's gone for over 30 DK fantasy points in 3 of his 5 games so far. So if he did that again tonight, that would be 6 times value. And with Miami being on the second leg of a back-to-back, and this being a good spot for Max Strus in general, I expect we're going to see some of those bigger names kind of get some semblance of a rest. So that's going to be a spot where Strus can go off. He doesn't need that necessarily, but it's only going to help him a ton. But same thing kind of applies to Hero as well, and of course a little more upside with a little more price.
All right, best bet for this one, Waylon. Where are you going?
I'm kind of taking a look at the total, which is sitting at 227 over on DraftKings, and I'm noticing that the Golden State Warriors are pretty comfortably in first place in pace thus far this season. And Miami's all the way down at 26, so we have a bit of a contrast, but I think this is a game that Golden State ends up controlling. I actually haven't not been impressed with Miami at all this season. They had a big win last night against Portland, but that was a close game. As soon as Damian Lillard went out, it felt like everything changed. They've looked a little out of sorts. It kind of feels like they're a guy or two short. Kyle Lowry's been very up and down thus far. I think if Tyler Hero wasn't playing so well, they might be off to a worse start than they are, sitting at 2-3. But I don't love the spot for Miami coming in on a back-to-back. Like Nick said, I think this is one where they're going to struggle to stop Golden State. Their defense has not been to the level that we've expected in years past. And really, Golden State hasn't been great on defense as well. These are both two average to below average teams in terms of defensive rating thus far. So I think we get a high-scoring game. I can see Miami coming in with tired legs. I like the over on 227.
Hey, Fryer, when we look at Grizzlies here at the Kings, I think John Moran is going to be the expected chalk here, dude. He has topped, this incredible start to the season, he's topped 60 DK points twice, including one game in which he's turned in 73 DraftKings points. So is that someone you would actually pay up for tonight, or do you want to go in a different direction on the DFS side?
This is where I want to pay up. This is what I was teasing earlier, where there's a guy, somebody in Kevin Durant's price range, but I like a little bit more and can provide similar level of output that Luka Doncic can provide to you on a night-to-night basis, at least to start the season. I understand look, with Luka, you're paying up for that assuredness. You know he's going to go and get that. He's in a favorable spot and everything, sure. But with John Morant, you can save, about 1.8K in this game. Maybe spend that money somewhere else for a guy like a Christian Wood or some other, bigger name on the higher end talent. For me, I'm willing to take that risk with John Morant because he's in a spot where the Kings haven't done really well against guards throughout the course of the season. They've been opposing guards have been putting up a good amount of DK fantasy points against them, and this also has the highest total on the slate by far. It's by 11 points, I think. Last I checked over on DK Sportsbook, not the highest total we've ever seen. So it was 236 or something to that end, but still a high one nonetheless. And also, if you're looking for a little bit of savings too, Tyus Jones, again another guard, he is sub 5K in this one, and he's been solid so far. I know people are going to be apprehensive because he had his lowest output with Dylan Brooks back in the rotation the other night, but still a guy I'm worth rolling dice on going up against the Kings.
I mean, opponents are shooting nearly 50% from the field, against the Kings. It's kind of unbelievable right now.
Yeah, so Waylon, the spread is down to 3 for the Grizz against the winless Kings, plus 130 if you like the Kings to get their first win of the season, but...
I don't think I do. Believe it or not, the Sacramento Kings are struggling on defense, and it looks like they're going to be bad this season. I mean, who could have seen this coming for the 20th year in a row? I had my eye on that total. Like Nick said, it's ballooned to 236.5. I mean, that's to the point now where I almost want to fade it. But, I mean, everything is pointing to this being a really high-scoring game. Memphis is actually a worse defensive team than Sacramento. They've been the worst defense in the league so far. I mean, they're just kind of playing this up and down, AAU style of basketball. And it's worked for them. When you have guys like John Morant and Desmond Bane, popping off for 35+ seemingly every night, you can just outscore teams. And that seems to be the plan right now. But, defensively, they're really missing Jaren Jackson. So I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do with that total. If it drops at all, I'll definitely go over on that. I'm kind of looking at some of the adjusted points props over on DraftKings, and De'Aaron Fox to go for 30-plus points tonight is plus 160. John Morant to go for 35-plus is plus 170. I kind of like both of those. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is somebody who feels like he's let us down the last couple of years, has had so many up and down games, but he looks like he's playing the best basketball of his career so far. Domantas Sabonis is actually the one who's been off to the slow start in Sacramento. So I would go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, check out those adjusted point totals, and see what you like there.
All right, you two were phenomenal. Thank you so much for the help tonight around the NBA, DFS, and Sportsbook. By the way, the only other winless team in the West right now, besides Sacramento, their California companion, the 0-4 Lakers right now. Here's Levitard and friends talking about the trouble that is brewing in LA.
This is how he's chosen to end his career, with this poorly constructed team that Russell Westbrook is very unhappy at the center of in ways that are so obvious that Charles Barkley and Paul George are saying, you've robbed that man of his joy. That man he's always been, Stu Guys, you've heard me describe him as a hissing radiator. He's always been that, but he can't be enjoying any of this. This has to be a real suffering as he feuds with Skip Bayless, and they call him West Brick, and his family. Like, this has been, and laughing is sport in this country at the high-paid athlete who is failing.
It's such an interesting career where he's been through this before. He went through it with Kevin Durant. He was the meat shield for Kevin Durant.
But when he was by himself, he was MVP and did something that no one in the league had seen before on mediocre teams. But he was the centerpiece.
But that's the interesting part of when I say interesting career. Exactly what he's going through now, he's been through before, and then he was beloved in Oklahoma City. He was beloved in the NBA. And now he's back where he was with Kevin Durant, where LeBron and Anthony Davis, I guess, are kind of blaming him, saying he's the problem, he's the reason.
But he's Stugotz.
He is the reason. He's 11 of 38 from the field.
He can't shoot, and everyone is welcoming him to shoot. And at the end of that game, the opposing center is laughing at you, and he wasn't playing any defense. It's like, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. What are you? You're a fool? Like, why are you shooting in that situation?
Now, the game in which he went 0 for 11 and still said solid game, he did have 5 steals.
He played good defense, and LeBron has been tried. The reporters were trying to bait him, but the part that I'm most interested in. We're 3 games in. It's 3 games. Do you know how long this season is? After game 1, LeBron is saying out loud, I don't know if we're that open because they want us to shoot. After game 1.
All right, good news for the best team in the NHL right now. Brad Marchand is going to play tonight.
Yeah, there were reports that he was returning ahead of schedule, and then all of a sudden we find out
it came down moments ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the coach saying that he's going to suit up. I'm not quite sure how long.
He's not going to play back-to-back games. He won't play tomorrow in Columbus, and they're aiming to keep him around 16 to 17 minutes.
Yeah, this was a guy too with this non-contact jersey, at practice. He was refusing to practice if he was wearing a non-contact jersey. I also kind of don't understand the urgency here. This is the best team in the NHL right now. You're 6-1. Do you really want to bring him back right now? I don't know. Who knows? Tough cookie.
I'm not a coach. Okay.
No, you're certainly not.
We have RotoWire's Paul Bruno and NHL.com senior fantasy editor and host of the Fantasy on Ice podcast, Pete Jensen, here with us. Fellas, let's get into this, okay? Marchand is back. So are you taking Patrice Bergeron as your center play? What do we think, Pete?
I mean, that's a safe play. They usually play together. Brad Marchand, arguably the best left wing in the NHL over the past 6 seasons combined. He's better than a point per game in each of those past 6 seasons. I'm actually looking at the ripple effect, though, and I'm thinking about rostering David Krejci in my mock lineup because he's better than a point per game, and he might play with Pasternak now, who's the #1 fantasy player in the land these days. With his amazing start, he could also play with Taylor Hall or Pavel Zacha. I mean, a crazy amount of riches going on right now in the Boston Bruins top 6 forward group, and somebody's going to get bumped out, but David Krejci is a mainstay as the #2 center.
All right, Paul, where are you going? Who do you want in your center position?
Well, I like Pete's call there for sure, and I'm going to double down though on fading the Oilers' big centers tonight too. They're on the second of back-to-backs, and they only combined for a pair of assists last night. So they're facing a Chicago club that's come out of the gate much better than we thought. They're on a 4-game win streak, so another reason to fade that matchup. Tonight, instead, I'm betting on two centers who are looking for their first big games of the year in terms of personal stats. Begin with Austin Matthews. He has a great matchup in San Jose late tonight. I know the shot volume will be there. It always has been, even though he's been struggling to put the puck in the net. I expect him to finally get one to the back of the twine tonight against the lowly Sharks team that maybe is the perfect opponent for him right now. Their defense is very thin, and they're going to go with their backup goalie, Kaapo Kähkönen, who's winless in his 3 starts. Matthews will cost $8,500. It's the lowest price we've seen on him so far this year. I feel similarly about Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers. He's undervalued at $6,500 versus Philadelphia, another team that's playing much better than we thought they would. But he's centering the first line again for the Panthers, scoring at a 100-point pace last year, and he too is overdue for that breakout game, having been limited to only 4 assists in his first 7 games. So I'm going to play Dr. Bruno tonight and hope to get these guys off the shelf.
All right, Pete, you just mentioned that David Pastrnak, the best fantasy player in the land right now in the Wings and Things department, is going to cost you $8,700. So is this a payout spot, or would you consider rostering Brad Marchand, $6,400 in his season debut?
I like that spark there from Marchand for that price. I'd probably be more inclined to roster Marchand than Pastrnak, with all due respect to the amazing start that he's had. I'm also looking at lineup lock territory from the same division. Drake Batherson, Ottawa Senators. He's got 8 points and 16 shots on goal during his 4-game point streak. The Senators are rolling right now, even after the injury to Josh Norris. Don't let that steer you away from Batherson, because now Batherson's not only with Brady Tkachuk, but also Tim Stützle. So a really strong top unit there. And the Minnesota Wild, who they're playing tonight, are allowing 4.67 goals per game this season, second most in the NHL. So Fleury's off to a slow start. Try to capitalize on it with Drake Batherson.
Paul, what's the strategy here at Wing for you?
I'm going to help another guy out who's part of a team that hasn't won a game yet this season. I think Vancouver's got a very good chance to get their first W of the year with a match in Seattle tonight, and continue my theme of helping the top guys who haven't really hit their stride. Thinking about JT Miller in this spot, costing only $5,600. He at least has shown signs of being ready to get on a roll, having potted 2 in his last start. I think he builds on it this evening. I'll be stacking that Panthers top line that I alluded to with my center pick of Barkov. So that means Verhaeghe for $4,000 and Reinhardt at $5,500 are also in my lineup. But I think it's a strategy you have to employ on a night when there's a large slate. You got to think of which line has a chance to put up some big numbers, and I think it's the Florida top unit for me.
All right, Pete, let's move to the blue line. Who do you want to roster here? Can you afford not to roster Rasmus Dahlin? I mean, he's expensive, but the man has just been racking up the points.
Right. Dahlin's having that full-fledged breakout season for Buffalo, who's been one of the early surprises. I'm not against that move, but I'll start building my defense around Kalen Addison, the star rookie. He's leading rookies in assists with 6 and power play points with 4. He's still cheap in DraftKings salary, and he's playing on the first power play, which has been an elite unit for all of Minnesota's problems so far this year. When they get up there with the man advantage, they usually deliver. I mean, he's playing up there with Matt Boldy, Kirill Kaprizov, and Matt Zuccarello, all among the power play point leaders in the NHL this season. So, yeah, I'm excited about Kalen Addison kind of scratching the surface and, you know, into the Calder Trophy conversation, right? Owen Power was a top-ranked defenseman this year. He hasn't delivered yet. Same for Jake Sanderson. The top rookie defenseman so far is Kalen Addison out in Minnesota, so get to know the name.
Yeah, he's one of the least expensive guys to play on a team's top power play unit, so that's a great choice. Paul, where are you going to go on the blue line?
I can't go to the highest priced guys here, Jesse, because I spent so much on forward. So my focus is the mid-range, but I get 2 guys who are power play quarterbacks for their respective clubs with pretty good matchups. I talked about the Leafs matchup against San Jose, so why not include Morgan Riley leading this team in ice time with first pair minutes and power play quarterback role. I think people forget this guy's also one of the league's top scoring blue liners, coming off a 68-point season last year. Got 5 and 7 so far, and stands a great chance of padding those stats against that suspect San Jose club for $5,400. Hand in glove with that, I like Jared Spurgeon of Minnesota. He plays a similar role, top PP minutes and first line defense pairing, and it's against an Ottawa club. It's going to cost $4,700 against an Ottawa club that is playing without one of their top two centers. They got some bad news that Josh Norris is likely out for the rest of the season, so they might be reeling a little bit with that bit of news in their back pocket.
All right, Paul, 10-game slate. We talked about a lot of guys to pay off for. Help us find some value, though, for tonight.
Well, when you're looking for this kind of thing, you got to look at changes in the roster. And there's a big one in Washington where Dylan Strome's been elevated to the top line alongside Alex Ovechkin. And that move gets you a guy that costs only $4,000. He's going to be getting the first line minutes and power play role as well. A lot of added minutes and primetime stuff with offensive zone starts, etc. So I think that's a great value. Another center that merits consideration, Michael Granlund of Nashville, also in a great spot, centering their top two wingers, I guess you'd say, is Duchesne's role now, and Forsberg as well on the Preds' top line and power play unit as well there for a matchup at home against the St. Louis club that lost a tough home game last night and then had to travel and will use their backup goalie tonight. You can get Granlund for only $3,600 here.
Pete, hook me up with your best value play tonight, dude.
Sure, same price as Addison, two low-price guys to build your lineup around. I like Gabriel Velarde, LA Kings. That has been a deep offense so far, very potent, three strong lines, and Gabe Velarde having a breakout season so far. He's been in the Kings' touted system for many years, but finally getting his shot. He's playing on the second line, and I like this the best. He's out there with the kings of the court, right? With Doughty, Kopitar, Fiala, and Kempe on the first power play unit. So sign me up for Gabe Velarde. He's quietly top 10 in even strength points in the whole league right now, and nobody's talking about him out west.
All right, Pete, you got an early lean on who you might be rostering in goal here. Jake Ottinger is still really hot right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm actually going with an undefeated goalie, not named Linus Hallmark or Jake Ottinger. I'm going with Carter Hart. I don't have full trust in the Philadelphia Flyers for the season long at large, but he's 4-0, 949 save percentage. He's playing the Florida Panthers. The Flyers played them well on the road in Sunrise last week, and now they're playing them at home. And Florida has that high shot volume, right? 7th most shots on goal per game, 4 in the league with 35. And with Carter Hart, he's got a 949 save percentage and a perfect record so far because of John Tortorella. I mean, who knows if Tortorella can keep this team in contention and for how long, but he's certainly turning around one of the best young goalies in the league that has been a part of a defense the past few years that was a train wreck. And now it looks pretty stout. It looks more structured, and it's benefiting Carter Hart. So I think we need to start looking at whether it's DFS or keeper leagues for fantasy. Look at Carter Hart in a different sentence now among the best 25 and under goalies in the league under Tortorella.
All right, Paul, what about you?
On a large slate like you got tonight, Jesse, I look at the sub $8,000 range again here because I've spent so much on the forwards, but there's two goalies in interesting situations for me. I know Marc-Andre Fleury stumbled out of the gate for Mini, but he's coming off his best start, a 26 save, 1 goal against effort against Montreal. Has a great chance to get it going again against a weakened Ottawa roster, costing $7,700 tonight. And if you believe, as I do, that the Canucks are finally due to hit the win column, Thatcher Demko is still regarded as one of the top young goalies in the league, and he's priced at only $7,500 tonight for that matchup against Seattle.
All right, Killer Peas, you guys are out. Your job here is done. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you all tomorrow, next time, whenever that is that you're on the show. Match week 14 around the EPL. We're going to dive into some best bets for that coming up right after we take one more trip, one more look at Thursday Night Football between the Ravens and the Bucks. Jesse and Steve here with your Larceny Bourbon Steals of the Week. Oh, we did it.
Welcome into Steals of the Week presented by Larceny Bourbon. Larceny Bourbon, discover a taste worth stealing. Jesse Cofield and Steve Buchanan here to find some steals or value plays for people playing in Thursday Night Showdown contest between the Ravens and Bucks. Steve, in what looked like a marquee quarterback matchup, has taken a turn with Tom Brady and Tampa really struggling this season. So where are you looking for value on the Bucks side?
Yeah, so this is really going to have to do with the status of Cameron Brate. But if he's out of this game, which is looking likely, Cade Otton has been the tight end one now for 2 weeks for the Buccaneers. Buccaneers. In those games, he's had 12 targets, made 10 receptions, over 100 receiving yards in those games. He's been getting some looks in the red zone as well. 3 red zone targets so far this season. So if Brady is out of this game, I think Otten's a really good value play for the Buccaneers in this one.
How about a value play from Baltimore?
Yeah, Rashad Bateman just came back from injury last week. Now in the games that he's played, he's averaging over 6 targets per game, 57 receiving yards too as well. So when Lamar Jackson needs to go downfield, that's been the guy he's been going to as well. Over 6 targets of 20 yards or more for him. So if they need to get a deep shot, that's the guy they're going to go to here. So give me Bateman in this one.
All right, thank you very much, Steve. And thank all of you for watching Steals of the Week presented by Larceny Bourbon.
You know, you want to be a showstopper? You want to be awesome? Then you'll want to have a game plan. Whether you're a champion or a bettor, you gotta be responsible. Have a realistic budget and bet within your means. Set a time limit, then stick to it. And use the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino apps. They offer all these tools and more so you can practice safe bets. Can I get a mic to drop?
Welcome back to the final block of the show.
Can't
We
believe
got
we
TK
made it.
Nation's Chinmay Vagia and RotoWire's AJ Scholes here to take us through their best bets for this week in the EPL. How exciting.
Yeah, my favorite Thursday segment every week, Chinmay, which I would like to start with you here because Liverpool and Tottenham playing in Champions League matches yesterday. So Liverpool has leads. The Spurs have Bournemouth on Saturday. Which of these favorites is in the most trouble of losing? Did that make sense? Was that English?
Their favorites and which one is in the most danger.
I said it,
Yeah.
and I wasn't
It
quite
made
sure what I
sense.
said.
Liverpool has been awful when it comes to Premier League games. It's kind of shocking, honestly, because we felt at the beginning of the season that they could sneakily be contenders to actually win the league and came within a point of doing so last season. But they've been really poor to start the season in the Premier League. If you take away that Fulham game where they absolutely demolished Fulham, it's been quite ordinary for Jurgen Klopp's side. So I actually do like Leeds plus 1.5 is plus 100. So that's something that if you're feeling that Liverpool might still be able to sneak this one out, I do think Leeds will put up a bigger fight. Tottenham, I really try to avoid betting anything Tottenham related, but I will go, Harry Kane to score and Spurs to win is listed at plus 150. That's something that you can probably get some plus money on with Kane having that goal disallowed in Champions League play. But I don't know that Tottenham is going to lose this game. I think Liverpool has a better chance of definitely slipping up here.
All right, AJ, what do we think here, brother? Because Spurs coming up back of 2 losses now, but their luck should turn, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I hate to so strongly disagree with Chinmay here, but Leeds is not going to go into Anfield and beat Liverpool. It's just not going to happen. And maybe if it was a road matchup, they'd have a shot. But I don't think either of these teams lose. I get Spurs is on the road, which is why they're minus 145 compared to Liverpool being minus 330. But to get some value out of both these matchups, I think you look at the money line totals in both contests. You can get Spurs to win in over 1.5 goals, and then Liverpool to win in over 3.5. Both of which come in around even money. So there's a good way to get some value out of these heavy favorites here. I don't expect either team to drop these games this weekend.
All right, a lot of heavy favorites from the top teams in the table. AJ, which favorite do you like to put up a lot of goals this weekend?
Well, obviously, based on me taking the over 3.5 in that Liverpool game, I think they're in contention to score plenty of goals here. But I think Man City is probably going to be the biggest one here in terms of the favorites. I'm actually a little more hesitant to back Arsenal to have a huge scoring game. Now, I do think they'll still win, Chinmay, don't worry. But I think Nottingham Forest is playing with a ton of confidence. So I'm just not sure Arsenal is going to put up a ton of goals. So I look to the team props, and I like Man City total team goals at over 3.5, which brings 245 value. If you want less risk, you can get them over 2.5 at minus 105. That's still a really good spot to be in. But I think you take advantage of the bigger payoff here. I see City putting up at least 4 goals in this contest.
All right, Chinmay, where are you looking for all the goals?
I agree with AJ. I do think Manchester City is the spot here. Over 2.5 goals at -105 is probably still giving you enough value there to back that where you don't have to get that extra goal. Man City have struggled to put the ball in the back of the net, quite frankly, over their last few games. I know they had that 3 goals against Brighton, but if you go a little bit further than that, they've struggled a bit to score. So I do like them to come out hard here and get a big win. So Man City over 2.5 goals is probably the play. Arsenal over 2.5 goals is -115. I don't know if that's enough value there to back the Gunners, but I do think that's another play, especially, Nottingham Forest. I think they gave it their all against Liverpool last week. I don't know if they'll come out with the same effort against Arsenal.
Well, Chinmay, when we're talking goal scorer prop here, who's in a good matchup this week? Who are you going to back?
There's a couple of Newcastle players that I actually like. Newcastle has sneakily been one of the better teams in the Premier League when it comes to scoring goals. Callum Wilson is +120, and Miguel Almiron is +240. And I would take either of those guys. Almiron is actually the leading goal scorer for the team, so I would take him if you want the higher payoff potential. But Callum Wilson listed as more of a favorite to score, both coming in at plus money. I would take either of them. And then in that Leeds-Liverpool game, I think Rodrigo is probably the only guy who would score for Leeds at this point, and he's listed at +240. I like any of those guys, depending on who you're favoring in that matchup.
Yeah, AJ, Newcastle is flying under Eddie Howe right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like both of those calls, but I'm going to go back to Tottenham here. Chime alluded to this off the top. I think you look at Harry Kane. -105 is the goal scorer prop here. That's really good value when you consider like Haaland's -250, Mo Salah's -165. Like both those guys probably going to score, but is it worth the risk in case they don't? I think with Kane, you get a little bit of a potential like more boost for him. If Richarlison can't play, he'll have to take on more responsibilities. And then I'll just throw this in there. My guy, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, +175. I think it's a decent matchup for Everton going up against Fulham, and he could be a player to target as well.
All right,
okay,
sweaty boot time.
All right, here we go.
AJ, what is your best bet this weekend in the EPL? Tell us.
Well, look, we talked goal scorer props. How about we look at assists? And I'm going to go Man City's Kevin De Bruyne to pick up an assist here. It comes in at -110. That's really good value when you consider he's got 11 assists in 14 appearances between the Premier League and the Champions League. Hasn't had one in their last 3 contests. I think he's due, and that's bringing the value into this one. So I'll take KDB to get an assist at -110.
Chinmay.
Oh man, Chinmay.
Sweaty boot
Chinmay.
Yeah, I alluded to the fact that, this is quickly going to start becoming a segment where we just take heavy favorites. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to go with the parlay here. I'm going to take Manchester City -1.5 goals against Leicester and parlay that with Arsenal money line. That's coming in at +107 right now. I'm going to go with the favorites to get the job done, and we'll see. Hopefully pick up a win here in the sweaty boot column.
Yeah, Lord knows both of you need it.
Who?
Not that you don't give great bets. It's just become the story of the season. Like, follow every bet they give up until the sweaty boot pick.
Yep, exactly.
And then just ignore what they say there or do the complete opposite and you'll make some money.
Sure.
All right, guys. Y'all are both fantastic. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yes.
That is a Thursday show. Are you here tomorrow?
No.
You're not. Okay. How's Thor doing? Great?
He's great.
Good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
He's doing really
okay.
well.
So we have the slate tonight at 5 o'clock. Watch that, and then I guess I'll be back in studio tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time alone.
And then we'll see you together on Sunday.
Oh, that's right, dude. Great show on Sunday. Hope you watch. Whoa.